considered defective products for unleashing into the world all sorts of features that we all know by now, like infinite scroll, you keep scrolling, auto-playing features, being able to like posts. So the lawyers battling the tech companies say the apps are like digital casinos. They argue that Instagram and YouTube affect kids' brains no differently than a slot machine.
NPR's Bobby Allen. Billionaire Les Wexner, founder of L Brands, is being deposed in Ohio today about his close relationship with the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The 88-year-old's name appears more than 1,000 times in the reams of documents the Justice Department released on Epstein. Wexner denies he knew anything about the wealthy financier's sex crimes involving the sexual abuse of children and rape. The Food and Drug Administration is reversing course and will consider approving Moderna's experimental flu shot after all, the decision coming a little more than a week after the agency refused to review the jab. Here's NPR's Sydney Lupkin.
The FDA rattled the biotech industry when it said it wouldn't even look at Moderna's application to market the first mRNA flu shot. Moderna used its mRNA technology to swiftly create and manufacture its COVID-19 shot during the pandemic. The company wants to use the same technology to make a flu vaccine. Initially, the FDA said it wouldn't review the new shot because the company didn't compare it to a high-dose flu vaccine in older people. Now, Moderna says it will take an age-based approach and agreed to add a confirmatory study after marketing begins that will focus on older adults. The company says the new vaccine would be ready for the next flu season pending FDA approval. Sydney Lupkin, NPR News.
Today is Ash Wednesday, when many Christians begin to observe the season of Lent. NPR's Jason DeRose reports the National Council of Churches is launching a new prayer campaign.
The campaign is called Deliver Us from Evil, which is a phrase from the Lord's Prayer as described in the Gospel of Matthew. The campaign asks participants to wear black on Ash Wednesday as a visible sign of witness and unity, to pray daily at noon throughout Lent, and to post photos of themselves on social media with a sign saying, Deliver us from evil. The largely progressive National Council of Churches represents more than 30 million Christians from 37 different denominations. It's calling on people of faith to, quote, raise their prophetic voices for justice, compassion, and protection of the vulnerable. Jason DeRose, NPR News.
From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. A passenger flight had to return to Hobby Airport shortly after takeoff this morning when a passenger reportedly attempted to enter the cockpit. News 88.7's Tom Perumian reports on what we know about the incident so far.
Houston police now say the cockpit of a Delta Airlines flight from Hobby to Atlanta was breached moments after takeoff, prompting that return to the terminal. Details about why the suspect forced their way into the cockpit or even the identity of the suspect remain unclear at this time. News 88.7 spoke with Houston Police Department Public Information Officer Shay Avoysian about the incident.
Someone tried to breach a cockpit and officers responded, HPD officers responded. They detained one male, took one male into custody. Okay, I do not have information about that male right now. What I do know is that HPD officers responded to that address after an alleged incident on a plane.
Broadcast reports say police reported the person was believed to be experiencing a mental health issue and was taken off the plane after it returned to the gate. The suspect is also alleged to have assaulted another passenger on board that flight.
Some Houston ISD seniors will open acceptance letters to the University of Houston downtown this year before they've even applied. In a new partnership between UHD and HISD signed Tuesday morning, the university is now guaranteeing admissions to seniors who have at least a 2.5 GPA. HISD reports nearly 8,000 seniors today would qualify for the automatic admission. Paula Mendoza, who sits on HISD's state-appointed board of managers, spoke at the signing ceremony.
This program will keep Houston talent right here in Houston, where our students can learn, thrive, and ultimately contribute to the city they call home.
Students can begin taking advantage of the opportunity now for the upcoming fall semester. A shelter-in-place order has been lifted in Liberty County after a large fire that started last night at a recycling plant. Officials say that a pile of large appliances caught fire at the Omnisource recycling facility, including dishwashers, washing machines, and refrigerators, which can give off toxic fumes when burned. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Auto Insurance protects the vehicles that work to keep small businesses moving forward, including protection while running errands and other tasks. At progressivecommercial.com.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. And you know what? We may be a little tired today because we had a great night last night with a lot of the supporters and listeners to this station.
Would you care to elaborate?
No, not at all. I have nothing to say about that.
We were at St. Arnold's Brewery.
Our annual News and Brews event.
Just a personal note, I had their Amber Ale, which I've had. It was their first beer that got them going.
Really?
It is so good. just to give you a little plug there, that Amber Ale, it really is delicious. And we had Super Bowl food.
Yeah, Super Bowl food.
That's what I call it. Yeah,
meatballs and chicken wings.
Ravioli.
I had the hop water all night, and it was so good.
Kevin had that.
I really enjoyed it.
Did you say the hot water?
Hop.
Oh, like you had hot water?
Yeah,
good for you.
I had the hop water, and it was really quite yummy. It was good.
Years ago, I did a story for Channel 13 on the Budweiser brewery out here. This was before St. Arnold's. So I went out there 9 in the morning, and they started explaining to me how beer is made with hops and yeast and all that. And then they say, and here are different samples. And like every beer they had, they wanted it served at a different temperature. Like 46 degrees for this, 47 for that, 48, 49 for that. Well, I had to taste all of those beers at 9 in the morning.
Must have been a fun segment after that.
That was the highlight of my career. Obviously.
Oh, I bet. If you remember any of it.
I don't remember a thing. No, it was fun. But listen, that brewery out there is, if you have a chance to look at all the mechanisms they have, it's amazing.
We did years ago. Doris sat in last Friday on the show, and years ago, her and I hosted a show together. I don't drink, not for any reason other than it's not my thing.
Right.
And
I don't smoke pot.
Yeah, not your thing.
I have a lot of friends that do gummies. I don't do that either.
Well, we were doing a wine sampling on our show, but nobody gave us a spill bucket. And so they kept pouring our glass and we'd have to taste the wine. And so when they'd cut back to the guests, Doris would take my cup and she would drink it. So in the course of maybe 10 minutes on air, she had like 30 samples of wine and I'm fine. And she's getting, loopy.
Enjoying
we met a lot of nice fans out there.
It was so
Noah
fun.
Espinoza was there. He was so cool.
Very cool.
My British computer guy.
And I met
and he's really British.
I met Mrs. British Computer.
Is that her official name? This is my British computer guy.
They were fantastic. It was a great.
He was funny.
British.
Yeah, he was funny. I met him and he introduced himself, but didn't give me his handle at first, and then said, "Well, you know, I'm my British computer guy," and it was like I was meeting a rock star.
Same.
I was like,
gave
"Oh
him a
my
big
God!"
hug. I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Then he said to me, "Don't tell Frank and Celeste. I haven't met them yet, and I don't want them to know it's me." And so I guess he did the same thing with each of you. It was so much fun.
It was a lot of fun. But we want to thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston. Today is February 18th. And Frank, why don't we chat a little bit about the weather?
Well, look at that shot. A little cloud cover, but it's really nice. It's going to continue to be, I think, a really nice warm week.
Okay,
a front comes through Friday. Chance of rain at 30%, and then a cool, nice weekend.
I really like when we get to around the 80s. It feels decent to me.
I think 80 for a high and 60 for a low is
perfect. Same.
I'm with
you,
girlfriend.
With that one, girlfriend. And I just,
I'd shift a little lower on both ends. But okay, I'll give you that.
No.
What, you like 75 and 55?
Yes. Oh, that's dreamy. A cold night where you got to put that comforter on, and then a pleasant day where you're not sweating to death.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. I'm a couple degrees difference.
We'll always find
Especially
something
in Fahrenheit,
to
which
yes.
is like the worst scale for temperature ever created.
Right. We're like, okay.
We should all, remember when we were in grade school, there's like, you've got to learn metrics.
Yes.
You've got to learn Celsius.
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's going to take over.
That was 1973 for me.
The only thing that came was 2-liter bottle of soda. That's the only thing where I used the metric.
True.
We used to get a half-gallon soda, but now we get 2
I
liters.
can't even think about a soda being in a gallon. I think of milk.
But you got half-gallon, though.
Yeah.
It was almost the same
Half-gallon.
size.
And then COVID showed us all that we're not 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit.
My
Well,
gosh.
I'm like, every time I did my temperature for COVID, I was 97.5 every time. Yeah, come on. You're not going to back me up on that?
97.5, yes.
Yeah, pretty normal.
Pretty normal.
98.6 has been
I don't know.
the
I was
standard
more worried
forever.
about the oxygen meter on your finger to see what your oxygen level was. I was always coming about 94.
Oh.
And they used to say, don't try to be 95, but close enough.
No, I just think about the thermometers, and we would have a couple around, and my kids would just be having them in their mouth, like checking. And you're like, what are you doing? You're going to get all of us sick.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a weather guy. He's the main weather guy in San Antonio, Adam Caskey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he makes thermometers as a hobby. It's his
Oh.
hobby. In his garage, he has the refrigeration, he has the mercury, he has all of this
I feel
stuff.
like this is a Friends of Frank type conversation.
You know, Adam would be a great Friends of Frank. We have Brent Goff today, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to mention
Very
another
cool.
friend you have.
He's going to talk all about world politics. He's out of Berlin. He's born in North Carolina, but he works in Berlin and has for 25 years. His take on what's going on in our country. It's kind of interesting. But yes, Adam Caskey makes his thermometers, and he told me that even though they're close, no two thermometers are exactly alike.
Oh, yeah. I totally believe that.
Yeah, isn't that interesting, though? Because you just think they manufacture them and you stick them under your tongue and then,
Yep.
nope.
Well, we're going to learn about your friend of Frank today from Germany. We're going to learn about the new flood maps that are proposed.
I can't wait to see how this is going to be explained.
Well, we're going to
We're
find
gonna
out.
find
just
out.
a
I've been
little
looking at
bit.
these maps for decades, so finally maybe we'll get at least a little clarity.
And it's Ash Wednesday.
It is Ash Wednesday.
It is. Do you say Happy Ash Wednesday? Nah.
No, just
No,
Ash Wednesday.
it's the beginning of the period.
Of
Lent.
Lent.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the count.
It's my story in the D, so I'm not talking
So-
about it.
It's the countdown to Ernie's 10 Commandment movie
Party.
watching.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought today. I was like, 40 days till my 10 Commandments annual viewing on
Which is
Easter
exactly
Eve.
where the 10 Commandments should stay, on your television.
On my television.
And that's
Yes.
it.
And big screen.
Okay.
Okay, but I do have a
Yes.
story for you. I'm going to jump
But
into the headlines first.
You know what? I think I'm actually jumping into the headlines first.
I see that. Okay.
Yes.
Boy, you just got snaked.
Well, I was going to jump ahead, but we're ready to go.
Hey, you're back.
Hi. The Reverend Jesse Jackson, the influential civil rights leader, minister, and politician who worked alongside Martin Luther King Jr. and reshaped Democratic politics with two historic presidential campaigns in the 1980s, passed away yesterday. And the city of Houston will host a community prayer vigil tonight in his honor at the Community of Faith King's Dome Cathedral, located at 1024 Pinemont Drive. The vigil will be hosted by the Honorable Rodney Ellis and officiated by Bishop James Dixon. Joining us now to tell us more is the bishop himself. Bishop Dixon, welcome back to Hello Houston.
Great to be here.
Bishop Dixon is a prominent Houston-based pastor, civil rights leader, and president of the NAACP Houston chapter. Bishop Dixon, what type of impact? I want to just jump right into it. What type of impact did Reverend Jackson have specifically on Houstonians?
Well, thank you for having me back. You ought to be here next week, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, Reverend Jackson spent so much time in Houston. He loved the city. He understood the diversity of Houston and the dynamics and the possibilities that Houston represented for all of America. I mean, we're the most diverse city in the nation. Reverend Jackson understood that Houston-Harris County impacts the nation. So goes Houston, so goes Harris County, so goes Texas, and so goes Texas, so goes the nation. So he was constantly engaged in coalition building in Houston and emphasizing the significance of us working together as a collective strength to advance the cause of democracy, freedom, liberty, and justice for all people. I cannot tell you how many times he called to say, Dixon, Bishop, you got to organize 5,000 churches. Start in Houston, start in Texas, then go to California, then come back up to Chicago. Because if Houston leads it, the nation will follow. That's what he believed about.
I love that. You know, I was thinking a lot about Jesse Jackson, and it seems to me that he got caught in this. We were just now giving you equality equal rights. We're not about to give you equal power. And so when he ran for president in the 80s, we weren't quite there yet as a country. Clearly we were 20, 30 years later. But because he did that, he set that up for equality in office holding.
There would not been a Barack Obama in 2008, had it not been a Jesse Jackson in 1984 and 1988. He even influenced the Democratic Party to change its processes as the way that they counted their representatives. I tell you, there was no possibility for Barack Obama without Jesse Jackson. I think people forget that.
Right.
The other piece is Jesse Jackson's connected to Houston influenced it because he was so connected to Mickey Leland. And Al Edwards. In fact, the late Reverend Al Edwards chaired his 1988 campaign here in Texas. Let me tell you, he was really grounded here, and he's a trailblazer and a real pioneer that we owe so much to him. And America, I think, really underestimated the value that Jesse Jackson's life and his emphasis and his intellect and his brilliance was for all of us.
Totally agree.
You know, as we reflect on him, too, something that keeps coming to my mind, there have been, and there are, many civil rights leaders out there. Very few, if any, hit the level that Jesse Jackson did. Having worked with him and known him the way you did, what made him so special? What drove him, I guess?
Well, there's so many things. First of all, you get Jesse Jackson. My first impression of him, I'm in the fourth grade at Helms Elementary School, and I'm reading that book about Dr. King's death. And I see the picture on the balcony. He's there, right? And so you know that he is a son of the movement, the legitimate heir to the movement's leadership from Dr. King himself. And the King family honors that. Think about the fact that he's mentored by the greatest civil rights leader in all of history. And then he makes himself available to be used. He saw the shooting. He's there. The blood's on his clothes, and yet he's not afraid. He continues. His family, he knows that his life is in jeopardy every day. Death threats. He lived telling his family, if I don't make it home, y'all stay in the fight. Don't you stop. Keep going. That's how he lived, and that's how they lived with him. That's a rare person, right? His courage, and then his competence. Jesse Jackson, he could talk about healthcare, the energy industry, and international affairs all in one breath and be as on point, as detailed as you and I could talk about our own birthdays. He was just that brilliant of a man. He could connect the dots of international politics, economics, governance, social things, and all in one conversation, make it theological and biblical and give you a moral perspective on how to move. That was Jesse Jackson.
And he understood the movement. I mean, he was of the age that when Dr. King passed, he was 23, 24.
Yes.
But he had seen it
at
in
that
action.
time.
He had seen it in action. He had seen movement actually happen by words, you know?
Yes.
And I think that he knew how to carry the mantle at a very young age, which, as to Ernie's point, there weren't a lot of young people that were there to carry it on.
What did it mean to earn the respect of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King at 23 years old?
Yeah.
Wow,
You know, Bishop Dixon, and that makes me think, we're sitting here and we're the names such as, iconic Martin Luther King Jr., we're hearing Reverend Jackson, Mickey Leland, and we talk about the picking up the mantle. What does that look like for today's young people?
Well, let me tell you, Reverend Jesse Jackson understood legacy and understood succession, understood bringing up a new group because he was a part of that, right? Someone brought him up. I would not have had a national platform that was legitimized except for the fact that Jesse Jackson laid his stamp of approval on James Dixon. Like, when I showed up somewhere, and he said, James Dixon is the next. And he did that for several people, not just myself alone.
Sure.
But he understood that, and he poured himself into his proteges and his mentees because he understood that it takes a broad team and it takes succession. So I think that we're going to be in good hands. There are people like Dr. Frederick Haynes in Dallas, who's now running for Congress. I can just talk Boise Kimball. I can name people across the country who were mentored by Reverend Jackson. And so I think across the nation, there's a group of us who are the heirs of that legacy and mantle. And now it's our challenge collectively to try our best not to let that legacy down.
Right.
But and especially for a time like this, right? We're holding this prayer vigil tonight, but it's prayer vigil and call to action, because as we discussed it with those close to the family, Jesse Jackson would not have a prayer vigil just to mourn his passing. It would be immediately about what we're going to do now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That is so true. So tell us about the vigil tonight. What's planned?
The vigil tonight at the Community of Faith Church, 1024 Pinemont Drive. It's going to be inspirational. We've got some of the greatest gospel singers around going to be there tonight. It's going to be informational. We got some insightful people. Commissioner Rodney Ellis is a walking library about Jesse Jackson, by the way, and many others. Symphonia Thompson, people will be there. But it's also going to be about empowerment and igniting. To say, hey, now we've got to all vote. Now we've got to all make sure we educate. We got to educate, right? We educate, and we motivate, and then we activate. So that's going to be a call to action tonight to make our mark while we can in honor of Jesse Jackson. In fact, we got a Souls to the Polls event this coming Sunday. The Souls to the Polls event is themed honoring Jesse Jackson, Souls to the Polls.
I love that. Not to make this about me, but you mentioned how Jesse Jackson is in a domino effect responsible for Obama.
Sure.
I can guarantee you we wouldn't have gay marriage if Obama and Biden had not been elected.
You're right.
So the domino effect of one man's courage can affect so many people.
And Jesse Jackson embraced all people.
Oh, he did, though. We stole the rainbow from him.
Yes, and in fact, absolutely. And we're going to be sure that that's portrayed tonight. Like, I just talked to Senator Molly Cook. She's on the program tonight. We're going to be sure that it's all inclusive, because Jesse Jackson understood, first of all, love does not discriminate. Secondly, justice doesn't have a color nor a creed nor, got me? So we got to understand that if we're going to do it God's way, it's one big family. We're all different in some ways, but we're so much more alike than we are different. And love conquers it all.
You're right.
And it's so important also to be discussing the legacy and the work that has been done by someone like Reverend Jackson. Because, yesterday we had Judge Vanessa Gilmore on.
Oh, gosh, that's my sister.
She specifically talked about how Mickey Leland was so pivotal in bringing her up and making sure that she had a path. And I think that that's my big question as we look at the times today. How are we bringing up the next generation of voices to be productive?
Yes.
And to build each other up and not necessarily be divisive, because it's much easier to be divisive.
Well, it's much easier to be, I tell people, okay, it takes more to build a building than it does to tear one down, right? Yeah. If you're going to destroy a skyscraper, it takes a week. Yeah. You're going to build that skyscraper, it takes years. Yeah. And so I tell people, if you're going to do something constructive, you got to have the patience and the persistence, right, to keep working at that vision. It's harder work. It costs more, but it means more once you've done it. And that's what it's all about in terms of building a coalition of people who understand that our contribution is not ever going to finish it, but we've got to build our floor while we have a chance, and that's what we're doing here. In honor of Reverend Jackson's legacy, it's about what we do now on our watch. He did his, right? Thank God he did it, 84 years. In fact, up until his final breath, he was still saying, you got to organize.
That was the question that I wanted to bring up. He used his life and career to move all of this forward, and in the last few years, some would say, it started sliding back. But he didn't give up. He didn't say, well, it didn't work. He continued to push forward, and there's a lesson we can all learn in that.
My perspective is that he never slipped back. He's slowing down is not slipping back.
Not him, but the movement.
The movement,
itself,
I understand. But I think, to your point, I think that the movement slowed or began to morph into something different as opposed to slipping backwards. I think what we're dealing with is the backlash from the movement getting so much attention.
Right.
And that challenges us all, doesn't it? I mean, when you look at the circumstances, we're still talking about protecting voting rights. They marched for voting rights then. We're talking about now health care. We're talking about a living wage. Think about that this nation has not raised the minimum wage in 20 plus years. Yeah. And yet we know what the prices have gone up. We're living now, reliving the reality that America has not yet changed its heart about freedom, equality, and liberation and for all people. And there's still a spirit in this nation that resisted Dr. King, that resisted Jesse Jackson, that's resisting us today, but the fight continues. And I think the nobility is in the fact that we don't give up. Mm-hmm. We don't give up. We keep pushing, and that's why he said Rainbow push, because there's got to be some more pushing. There's got to be agitation in the midst of our legislation, and we got to do that in a spirit of compassion and courage, but understand that evil never gives up. Evil only bows when the power of good, challenges it, and that's what justice is all about.
That's perfect.
Bishop Dixon is a prominent Houston-based pastor, civil rights leader, and president of the NAACP Houston chapter. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you all. Come see us tonight.
We will. Coming up on Hello Houston, Executive Director of Harris County Flood Control District, Dr. Tina Petersen, will explain FEMA's new flood maps. Stay with us. This is News 88.7.
Meet Dio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
Or both. Your ongoing donations of at least $5 per month qualify for PBS Passport. Make your gift now to start watching at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
On Fresh Air, you'll hear conversations with entertaining people like Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson.
I gave him one take, one sound, one voice, and that was it. Blah, 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 blah. And Matt, his eyebrows went up, his tongue came out of his mouth. He's like, oh my God, that's him, that's Bart, that's him. You got the part.
The most interesting people in show business tell their stories on Fresh Air.
Fresh Air, weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
I'm Jesse Thorne. You want some real, insightful conversations about where art comes from? Well, Bullseye has you covered, as long as you don't mind a little bit of ridiculousness.
Y'all was like really judging me though.
They sniffed it out. They sniffed out that I was weird.
I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna sit, just like in the movies.
Listen, learn, laugh. Bullseye from Maximum Fun and NPR.
Bullseye, Thursdays at 10 p.m. on News 88.7.
What I've always tried to do in my music is just tell the truth.
Who am I really?
Get into the minds of some of the world's most creative people.
Totally exploring their ideas.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you everything.
The Arts Hour brings you the finest arts and culture conversation from across the BBC and beyond.
It's the variety. That's the world that interests me.
The Arts Hour from the BBC.
Fridays at 10 p.m. and Saturdays at 11 p.m. on News 88.7.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Earlier this month, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, known as FEMA, released a draft of the updated floodplain maps for Harris County, the first since 2007. We've only had 3 major floods since then, if not more, so it's about time. County officials say that these preliminary maps are now available through an interactive dashboard on their website, but they stress that nothing changes yet when it comes to flood insurance requirements or development rules. I'm guessing construction on those places. So to help us understand what this all means, what happens next, how residents can review and weigh in on the process, we're joined by Dr. Tina Petersen, Executive Director of the Harris County Flood Control District. Dr. Petersen, welcome to Hello Houston.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
I
mean, this is like explaining kudzu.
It's important stuff, though. It matters to our residents in Harris County.
Let's start. So it's been nearly 20 years. Here we are. Why now? And to the average homeowner, should they be worried? Is this something that they should actually be ears up listening to, or is this like, meh?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first, let's talk a little bit about the process and then answer your question, Celeste, which is why now, right? So the process to update the floodplain maps is led by FEMA. But the Flood Control District has been involved. We've been making sure to provide our local expertise so that it is incorporated into their process. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, FEMA is driving the boat. They are administering the National Flood Insurance Program, and so this is their process. It's a very regulated, strict, deliberate process. Now, the question about why now is a great one, because I've gotten this a lot. And if we think back to, Frank, you mentioned, right?
Yes.
3 storms, 2015, 2016, and then Harvey, 2017. We had back-to-back unprecedented storms. And at that time, it showed us that the floodplain maps were not up to date. And so we needed to do something. And there was recognition at the time. There was a multi-jurisdictional recognition that the floodplain maps needed to be updated. And so that process started. And here we are.
Yeah.
I don't want to be snarky, but I will be. I pulled it up, and what I saw was Harris County, and over it was just the whole thing was a flood zone. So what is it really telling us?
Well, let's.
And am I reading it wrong also?
Well, I would encourage everyone, you're bringing up our tool. I think this is really important. One of the things that we believe at the Flood Control District is the importance of all of our residents to be able to access this information.
Yeah.
And so we do have a tool on our website at hcfcd.org. And I think the thing that is really important to understand is there is going to be changing flood risk as a result of the FEMA maps. We know this. But we also know, Ernie, that there is progress that we are able to see as a result of the projects that we've done as part of the bond. So as we look at certain areas and certain neighborhoods, we're able to see that there is a reduced flood risk despite the fact that all of these changes have happened over these 20 years. And that is thanks to the investment that we've been able to make. The voters in 2018 in Harris County Commissioners Court made an unprecedented investment in the bond program. And we know more work is needed, but we are really, really pleased to be able to see that the projects that have been done are making a difference.
And how much trust should be put into these maps?
Look, we at the Flood Control District have spent, at this point, years working with FEMA to make sure that the most accurate information is included. So the Flood Control District and FEMA have done something with these maps that no other agency in the nation has done. We are using the most current models. We're using highly detailed topographic data that has really increased the level of detail that we can show in the maps. Now, it has resulted in a longer process, but we feel that our residents in Harris County need this flood risk information. That's really the purpose, is to make sure that our residents have the most up-to-date flood risk data. And if you go on our website in our tool, we have a slider so you can see the old flood map and the new flood map, and you'll be able to see the level of detail in these new maps is quite substantial.
Here's an interesting question from YouTube. Would you please ask if the models account for sea level rise?
So we work closely with FEMA to incorporate not only the riverine aspects, which is, our bayous and our rivers, but also the coastal boundary. And so the assumptions that have been made in the models are consistent with FEMA assumptions related to coastal waterways.
So my advice has always been, if you live in Houston, you need to have flood insurance. Because, it's been luck of the draw. No one can withstand 32 inches of rain. But in Harvey, some people got that, some people didn't. I only got about 18 at my house, so I didn't flood. Close, but didn't flood. But I couldn't have taken 32, 33 inches of rain, which was the average. I know, if you look across the Harris County map, that was the average. Almost 3 feet of rain.
Indeed.
Who in the world can withstand that?
Well, I think that's why it's important to recognize 2015, 2016, 2017 were unprecedented events. They just truly, truly were.
Biblical.
Exactly. But it really spawned the response that we saw, right? It spawned the updates to the floodplain maps. It spawned really the progress that we're seeing now thanks to the 2018 flood bond. So that challenge that our community faced, we have been able to take it and really act to reduce flood risk for our community.
You said unprecedented, and then you listed 3 years.
Yes.
So it sounds like it's not unprecedented anymore, it's become a new pattern. Are we using the wrong verbiage when we say that these things were unprecedented?
Well, they were all 500-year floods.
Right.
And they were back-to-back years. So,
right. So is that just the new normal?
Well, one of the things that is being reflected in these new maps, right? So we updated rainfall. And so the rainfall in the new mapping process that FEMA is leading is incorporating all 3 of those storms. And so we have an increased rainfall in the models that we have been used for the FEMA draft maps.
So while we're on that subject, have they accounted for rain rates? Because I saw Harvey rain come down at 6 inches per hour.
Yes.
Allison came down at 3 inches per hour in 2001. So have they accounted for that? Not just how much you get, but how fast you get it.
Which I'm going to piggyback on that question. So, Dr. Petersen, I think one of the things when we're looking specifically at the maps is what is on this map that potentially was not on the 2007 maps? What changes were specifically made?
That's great. That's a great question, and I'll work in an answer for you too, Frank. So, the major changes that have been made is number one, rainfall. So we updated rainfall. The old rainfall data we were using was like the 1960s. And so obviously we saw 2015, 2016, 2017 significantly increased rainfall and rainfall rates. And so that was incorporated into something called Atlas 14. So that is our new standard in Harris County for our rainfall data. We also updated topography, so it reflects current development conditions, and it also includes flood control projects that were built and in progress up to 2020. And so that's why we are so fortunate to be able to actually see the progress, even though we know that these maps are going to be leading to, different perceptions of flood risk.
So what do they tell me? If I'm going to buy a house or build a house and I look at this map, what am I supposed to glean from this map?
So right now, I would encourage you to consider the data that we're sharing in the maps as draft. FEMA has released these maps for technical review, but they are at a very early stage in the process. And so there are years of work left until those maps become effective, become final.
So were there any areas that were not in the floodplain before, but they are now?
So we know that because of the increased rainfall, that we are seeing changes in flood risk for our community. Okay. And that has already been reflected in the fact that the development standards were changed in 2018 and 2019, anticipating that the floodplain maps would be changing. And so our regulations that are being implemented for floodplains in Harris County already are accounting for this change.
I want to go back, though, to where the first question that I asked you, though, is listening to all of that. Am I looking at the map wrong if I look at it and it basically says all of Harris County is a flood zone?
Well, I would tell you, Ernie, that is not accurate.
Okay. Yeah.
Not all of Harris County is a flood zone. What the modeling does is it really relies on data. It relies on topography, rainfall, incorporates our projects. And so there are areas that our community does face flood
risks, yeah.
And there are areas where that is not the case.
And I was going to say, were there certain areas on that flip side where you all were like, you know what, this used to be a high-risk area, and we're seeing that based on different types of remedies that the county has done or the city's done, we're now seeing a shift and a change.
We absolutely are. And I think that is a really important thing for our community to know, because the projects that we're working on in the bond program are making a difference.
Right, and I think that's key, so that there's this message out there to Harris County residents that there is some type of relief out there, that people are working on this.
Yes, and I will, just highlight the fact that the work that has been done is just a small amount of the work that we are having underway right now. So currently we have for this year alone, almost $500 million worth of construction projects that we'll be initiating. And we have more to come after that. We are doubling down. And so I think as we look at the progress that's been made, there is more to come. And we need to just continue at the flood control district to double down and deliver the results that we know our community needs.
Dr. Petersen, one other thing that comes to mind is we continuously hear how Harris County is just constantly growing. And so how much of development and growth was taken into looking at the trajectory of infrastructure and things?
So we were able to use the most current, it's a technical term, but it's called LIDAR. So it's elevation topography data to feed into the models that FEMA used for the mapping.
Okay.
So we were able to do that. The other thing I will just continue to highlight is the fact that back in 2018, 2019, I was not there, but there were decisions made at that time to start using Atlas 14 as a basis for regulating our floodplains. And that really was a game changer to make sure that our residents can make good decisions now.
We have a call, by the way. Stephen from the West Side. Hello, Stephen. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment for Dr. Petersen?
Hi, thank you. During the Hurricane Harvey flood, the highest water level in the Addicks Reservoir, the highest was 109.1 feet above sea level. And then at that point, the water began going around the ends of the ends of the spillway, and it didn't grow any higher than that. That flooded a lot of the houses in Bear Creek subdivision, but not all of them. And it did not flood the apartment where I live, because it's not this apartment complex built the slabs up higher. But what I'm wondering is, why is it that on surveys for houses, the elevation of the slab is not information that is available on those surveys? Because how are people going to know whether they're building at above or below 109.1 feet?
Lost.
Okay.
I guess that's a fair question.
I think that is something that I would have to refer back to, the home builders, the surveyors. I'm sure that information can be available if you ask for an elevation certificate. But, I'm not familiar with the specific regulations that
So now
govern.
that we have these maps, do we have any idea what this is going to do to the cost of flood insurance? Is the map? We think the maps are going to change that.
Well, the maps are still very, very draft. So any changes that could happen, would happen, are years away. And really, I think at this point, it's too early to speculate the impact.
Well, we're already kind of spreading the wealth when it comes to flood insurance, right? I mean, when you may have been paying $500 2 years ago, you're now paying $800. And if you were paying $1,500, you may just be paying $1,000. They're kind of spreading the pain throughout the area.
Yeah. So FEMA has really done a complete overhaul on the way that they manage their flood insurance program. And so, I think your point is correct, right? With that, they've made some changes, and it's no longer just based on whether or not you were located in a floodplain or not. And so I think that is a factor that we'll have to watch and see.
Well, it makes it confusing. It's like, well, I'm no longer in a floodplain, but my flood insurance went up.
Yes.
And the reason it did that is because the government says you should help pay for the poor guy who is in the floodplain. Right. That's only fair.
Right. Well, there's a lot of things that we have seen are confusing and complex with FEMA, and, flood insurance is one. I would say the floodplain mapping and the update process is another. It's just very
Let me add
confusing.
quickly, you don't have to buy your flood insurance through FEMA. I think Lloyd's of London sells it. I think Chubb Insurance sells it. I could be wrong on that, but there are a few insurance companies out there that will cover you for flood.
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
got to do your research.
I did not know that.
Dr. Petersen, I'm not sure if you can answer this, but I am curious. As someone who works specifically looking at flood maps, knowing what you know, understanding the risk, what type of regulation and regulated policy do you think is needed from a construction standpoint?
A lot.
that you're not seeing happen or you would recommend needs to happen?
Well, I think our current regulations that we have in place here in Harris County are among the most restrictive, the most, they require the most out of our development community than almost anywhere else in the nation.
Okay.
So I think that we already are doing a lot.
Yeah.
And that decision was made back in 2018 and 2019 with, just having come through these 3 years of, these unprecedented storms, Ernie, and really recognizing that the community, there was a need to make decisions at that time to protect the residents of Harris County.
Well, we had one other comment. You get an elevation certificate, $350 from any surveyor.
There we go.
There you go.
Dr. Tina Petersen is the Executive Director of the Harris County Flood Control District. Dr. Petersen, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello.
Keep up the good work. We need it.
We appreciate it.
Yes. Coming up, we're going to highlight the work done by communities and schools of Houston. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Meet Gamola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Gamola to learn more about his ride.
We need Greenland very badly. This will be very traumatic for Iran if they don't make a deal.
So how do you feel about America's foreign policy right now? That's next time on The Middle.
You can hear that Thursday night at 8 p.m.
Prediction markets like Kalshi and Polymarket have seen explosive growth over the last year. They allow people to put money on the outcomes of everything, from local elections to the Super Bowl. But an epic battle is underway between state regulators in these platforms, and now the federal government is putting its thumb on the scale. The fight over prediction markets, next time on 1A.
1A is coming up today at 2 o'clock.
Maintaining a community garden seems benign, but its history is a lot more complex than you'd think.
And their roots are nefarious, a little bit, an unhappy fate.
How community gardens often turned impoverished neighborhoods into thriving city centers and then often were destroyed, and how they continue to build community even today. That's next time on Think.
You can listen to Think. It's on tonight at 10 o'clock.
Support comes from Port Houston, delivering access to international markets for everything made and grown in Texas. Port Houston operates the public port terminals and advocates for Houston's port and ship channel, all for the benefit of those who live and work in the region. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Communities in Schools of Houston, CIS, is an area nonprofit dedicated to providing students with a community of support to help them realize their potential in school and succeed in life. Earlier this month, CIS released its 2024-2025 annual report highlighting the organization's work across the greater Houston area during this past school year, as well as major accomplishments as well. To tell us more about CIS and this report, we're joined by Lisa Descant, CEO of Communities in Schools of Houston. Lisa, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, what are the basics of this?
Yes. Sure. We are a nonprofit, education, mental health nonprofit. School districts, schools reach out to us, seek our partnership. And when we are partners, we are then embedded. Our staff, our programming is embedded on school campus, full-time, every day, all day. And we are counselors, social workers, helping professionals, working directly with students and families, alongside educators and administrators, helping students and families address any and all barriers to academic success.
What we often hear, cut you off.
So just a huge spectrum of need in the sports support.
What we hear all the time is a lot of people concerned our schools aren't working, our schools aren't performing, they're not helping. From where you sit, what is the reality of the situation you see every day?
Yeah, so coming on here is just a huge honor. And I think part of it is because I see my role in CIS as being able to be an advocate for schools and for students. There is amazing work happening every day on school campuses. I just visited a middle school this morning. Amazing things are happening. There are incredible leaders on campuses. The teachers are working so incredibly hard. Students are coming to do their very best to achieve and succeed. Families are counting on it. And it's a tough road.
Is it one of you per school, two of you per school?
Generally one CIS student support manager per school. There are some campuses that do have two. There's one campus that has three.
Yeah, they get big, those campuses.
They
a
do
lot
get
of
very
thousands
large, yes.
in some cases. So that's a lot. It's a lot to take on.
And so what type of work, you'll arrive on a campus, usually what are the grades? What does that day look like with a student?
Yep. So we serve pre-K through college. So we're working with 3-year-olds. We're working with 23-year-olds.
Wow.
A typical day is arriving on campus and generally being part of the welcome kind of team to help students kind of get acclimated to campus on a Tuesday morning, address any challenges or concerns that might have come up overnight. And then we begin our individual sessions with students. We host small groups. And so we're coordinating also the partnerships of some of the other nonprofits or volunteers that might come onto campus to help support students. Usually around lunchtime, we are in the cafeteria interacting with students, checking in. We might pop into a classroom to see if a student really is challenged in a particular class. Maybe meeting with an administrative team who is kind of case staffing a student of particular concern. End of day, maybe we're making phone calls to parents to address what we might have learned throughout the day, and then we start.
Well, that's one of my questions. Can you give me a laundry list of what kind of issues you help solve? I mean, are these kids coming to school that haven't had breakfast and have no lunch money? Or is it they don't have any shoes? They don't have money for textbooks if they're in college? Yep. What's is it all of that plus a whole lot more?
It's all of that plus. So you're talking about kind of financial or economic barriers,
right.
And that is a significant portion. About 70 to 80% of students in Harris County are considered economically disadvantaged. So there is real life challenges around accessing food, stability of housing, uniforms, backpacks, school supplies. We have amazing partners who help kind of fill in gaps, but financial resources is a significant part of what we do. And on and on. So mental health is a component, exposure to career and college, engaging families so that they are equipped to support their students through.
So if you have a student whose mental health needs attention, is it your role to actually become the therapist or to say to someone, this kid needs a therapist, not me, but we need to find a place for him or her to go?
So within communities and schools, it's both. Many of our staff members, including myself, I serve as the CEO, but I am a licensed professional counselor and licensed marriage and family therapist. Many of our staff are licensed master social workers, licensed clinical social workers, other LPCs. So we do have mental health professionals on staff, on campuses, full-time every day. We also coordinate the partnership of expert providers, DePelchin, Bose Place, Remine, Nick Finnegan. They come in and through our staff and meet with students on campus. And then we also have the third tier of our mental health initiative is our mobile mental health team, who are folks, CIS staff who are licensed professionals, who will support a cohort of campuses kind of nearby and around. And then for more intensive or for families who really do want to engage off campus, we also are providing connections and resources to providers of mental health off campus.
Lisa, I do want to address this. Based on the work that you do, how important is it to address those social, emotional skills, addressing the lack perhaps of financial support tied to academic success?
Well, it's everything, right? If you come to school and you're hungry, or if you have that burning toothache that has been unaddressed for months, or you're concerned about the situation at home, whatever it may be, you are distracted, you are in pain, you are without the nutrients to receive that amazing education that is sitting in classrooms. Teachers are bringing it. Students are faced with challenges. And so to address that takes away those the things that get between receiving the education. It's incredibly important. And I know it because I hear it from the teachers. I also hear the difference from our students. This was me before when my needs weren't being addressed. This is me now. I am thriving.
You can't learn if you're hungry. You can't learn.
You simply can't. Yeah, and we've all experienced that. Like the end of the day or before lunch, like how, but these are students who perhaps are experiencing chronic, ongoing hunger and uncertainty about the next meal.
A lot of stories we hear about is student retention and also grade promotion, moving on, not being held back.
Yes.
Your report gives some very promising numbers, though, in there, if I'm reading it correctly.
I think you are. Yes,
like the maps.
We're incredibly proud of our students, and that's what it is. We're proud of our students. So the numbers that I think you're talking about are specific to our case-managed students. And case-managed students for communities and schools means that those students have at least one at-risk criteria, at risk of dropping out of school. So, like, of all the students, ours have at least one. Many have more than one factor that is considered making them at risk of dropping out of school. And our students persist in school last year at the rate of 98%.
Which is phenomenal.
Which on average across Harris County, when you bring all the students together, is at about, we're at 92%. So we're a population of the most challenged students, and they are excelling at a rate.
Why do you think that is? What is the secret sauce, as I think we've said before on the show? Is it the attention to them? Is it being aware?
So we say that the power of CIS is in the power of relationships. So students come to campus at a CIS campus, and they know that there is a CIS person who the school has identified can be dedicated to addressing all of these needs. The school cares. They have their functions. They bring us in. Our function is to develop a relationship with students so that their worries and concerns, they feel that they can trust someone, CIS, to hand their problems over, and CIS will work through and sort them out. So we create a reason to come to campus and a way to get needs addressed.
And almost be that constant in a young person's life.
Yeah.
Not to sound gauche, where do you get your money?
Thank you. Can I circle back to the constant? The constant is also family. I'll give that. So what I really want to point out that CIS is in addition to the family network that is there for students. Right. And we take that that's a point of pride that we're working with.
Fundraising, grants,
how do we
donations?
Fund? This is the life of a nonprofit, is to ensure that we have the next year and the next year planned out. Our funding is a public-private share, and so there is a contribution to our programming costs made by the school district or school entity who invites us in. So that's a portion of it. We do receive a smaller portion of our budget is provided by the Texas legislature. So in and through the Texas Education Agency, we do have some legislative funds. And then to a very large part, it is the greater philanthropic community from Houston.
Which we have, thank goodness. But it sounds like it's going to a great place.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
thank
congratulations.
You. Incredibly proud of our work, incredibly proud of our students.
The numbers speak for themselves on this one. It's fascinating.
Thank you. Yeah, we're incredibly proud. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, it's been an honor having you on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Lisa Descant is the CEO of Communities in Schools of Houston. Again, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing the mission of CIS.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Coming up, we're going to continue discussing today's top headlines. We'll also hear the latest installment of Frank's Friends of Frank.
You're going to love it. Brent Goff is amazing.
Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston. I'm excited.
He's super cute, too.
The important things.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
It's easy to suffer from information overload these days. Social media posts that just keep scrolling, bite-sized headlines sent to your phone and even your watch. I'm Ira Flato. Every week on Science Friday, we take a step back for a longer look into the big ideas in science. Take a deeper dive with us.
It's all on Science Friday from WNYC Studios.
Science Friday, every Friday, 1 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from the Clarion at Brazosport College, featuring the vocal ensemble Kitka on February 27th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets and more information at brazosport.edu/Clarion. A partly sunny day, the high 80, mostly cloudy tonight. a low near 68. And then tomorrow, partly sunny, the high near 81. It's 75. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, the Late Show host Stephen Colbert is criticizing CBS after the network allegedly blocked him from interviewing Texas State Representative James Talarico. We'll discuss with Houston Public Media reporter Michael Adkison. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also hear another edition of my Friends of Frank series, in which I speak with broadcaster Brent Goff.
And I'm Ernie Manous. Acclaimed playwright James Anthony Tyler will also be with us to talk about his role as the head of the Playwriting and Dramaturgy Program here at the University of Houston.
Also, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org and clicking the purple box.
Hello Houston continues right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. U.S.-sponsored peace talks between Russia and Ukraine broke off earlier than expected today in Geneva, Switzerland. However, participants are suggesting that some progress was made. NPR's Charles Maines has more from Moscow.
The Kremlin's lead negotiator, Vladimir Medinsky, gave no explanation for the abrupt end to the meetings, but described them as difficult and businesslike and said they would continue at a later date. Ukraine noted progress in negotiations, a view shared by White House envoy Steve Witkoff, though neither provided further details. Negotiations have bogged down over Russian ultimatums Ukraine surrender territory, including land not controlled by Russian forces, as well as Ukraine's demands for ironclad security guarantees from the U.S. should it even consider a deal. Ahead of the talks, President Trump said the onus was on Kyiv to make concessions, saying Ukraine better come to the table fast. Charles Maines, NPR News, Moscow.
L Brands founder Les Wexner is being deposed in Ohio today about his long friendship with a late-convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Members of a congressional committee are questioning the billionaire after his name appeared more than 1,000 times in the documents the Justice Department recently released on Epstein. Wexner denies he had any knowledge of the financier's sex crimes. In the wake of the millions of documents released in the U.S., prosecutors in Paris, France, announced they have launched 2 new investigations into Epstein's sex crimes and finances. They're asking alleged victims to come forward if they have not already done so. The Association of National Park Rangers is suing the Trump administration in federal court. Members say the government is unlawfully erasing history at national parks. Here's NPR's Kristen Wright.
The lawsuit filed in Boston by conservation and historical groups says for more than 150 years, the federal government has been entrusted to operate the national parks, to memorialize and commemorate U.S. history, but that the government has betrayed that trust. The complaint says there are, quote, countless examples, including the tearing down of an exhibit in Philadelphia a few weeks ago, honoring the lives of 9 people enslaved by George Washington. And the suit points to the removal of signs, noting the impact of climate change on the parks. The groups argue the Interior Department has exceeded its authority. The changes stem from an executive order. A White House spokesperson tells the Associated Press the lawsuit is premature and that the agency is still reviewing the nation's exhibits. Kristen Wright, NPR News.
9 backcountry skiers are missing following yesterday's avalanche near Lake Tahoe in California. They were part of a larger tour group. The Nevada County Sheriff's Office says 6 people were rescued in an hours-long operation. 2 skiers were admitted to the hospital. U.S. stocks are trading higher this hour. The Dow is up 310 points, or more than 0.5%. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. The Texas Secretary of State's office reports that nearly 18.7 million Texans are registered to vote in the March 3rd primary elections. That's up from just under 18 million in March of 2024. Early voting is now underway across the state and will continue through February 27th. Houston resident Harold Ogbon turned out yesterday to vote. He says he wants to see some change.
Things are screwed up right now. You know, want some change, you know. Anybody that has anything to do with mega or whatever, just is out of my league.
Polls are open from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. during the week. During this early voting period, Metro is offering free round-trip rides to and from polling locations. Election Day is coming up in just under 2 weeks. From now on March 3rd, more information about the primaries can be found on our website, houstonpublicmedia.org. A new survey from the University of Houston Hobby School of Public Affairs shows that most Republicans are unsure which candidate they will select for Harris County Judge in the 2026 primary. Houston Firefighters Union President Marty Langton emerged as a top fundraiser for the position and drew an endorsement from Governor Abbott. But the survey found that only 10% of likely Republican voters plan to vote for him. 21% said they plan to vote for Republican Orlando Sanchez, a former Houston City Council member. A funeral and celebration of life was held this week for a music pioneer who put Houston's iconic hip-hop sound on the map. Swisha House Records founder DJ Michael 5000 Watts died last month after a sudden cardiac event. He was 54. Family, friends, and fans paid their respects, including Houston area Congressman Christian Menifee.
Look, if you know anything about Houston, you know that he changed the culture, not just for one side of town, not just for the city, but for the entire country. Everybody in here knows the impact that he had, not just on our music, but on our communities, on the culture, and on making sure that the entire country knows about Houston and how we roll.
A procession took place following a public event in the Heights on Monday. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. This is NPR.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Thanks for joining us on this second hour of Hello Houston. We've had a packed house already.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. And our guests are all in studio. It's always nice to be able to look them in the eye and ask a question.
Up until our next interview coming up in a little bit, it's a Friends of Frank, which you already...
Brent Goff is, he's from North Carolina, and he went to school in Missouri, and then he decided he wanted to learn German and work in Germany as a journalist. And so he's become the chief news anchor of DW Television, which is on a lot of PBS outlets. So people might know him already. But, DW is English speaking. Mm-hmm. He's kind of the Anderson Cooper of DW TV.
That's very cool.
And he's been a friend for a long time. And I was interested to know, when you live and work in Berlin, even though it's an English-speaking television, how does Europe see the United States these days?
That's
and
a great question.
I was not particularly proud of the answers that he gave, but he's very honest and upfront about it. So,
well, we're going to leave everybody in suspense.
Coming
up. That's the tease.
He'll be with us at the bottom of the hour.
And quickly, though, how is the weather out there? Celeste's saying it's cloudy.
It's a little cloudy. We have a little overrunning, which is when you have cool air at the surface.
I like that.
Warmer air overrunning it. It creates clouds, but no precipitation. We have a front that's going to make its way through here. It looks like Friday. Yeah. So it'll cool us down a little bit for the weekend and bring us a little rain for the beginning of the weekend, Friday and a Saturday morning.
I'm enjoying this weather.
We've had a good run.
We've had a good run.
We have no hurricanes in the Gulf to speak of. In summer, we had the freeze did not really affect us too badly.
That's right.
We could still drive.
Everybody had a snow day.
Yeah, we got to drive to get here, So, and then the temperatures have been pretty nice.
Well, not everybody is having a good run. Well, I guess it depends on how you look at it.
How are we looking at it?
Well, we're going to find out as Celeste takes us into our first story, and you can judge for yourself if someone's having a good run or not.
Late night host Stephen Colbert criticized CBS after the network declined to allow an interview with Texas Democratic U.S. Senate candidate James Talarico. Colbert told viewers that network attorneys, citing Federal Communications Commission rules, FCC rules, blocked the appearance. Talarico, a state lawmaker from Austin, is running against Jasmine Crockett in the March 3rd Democratic primary. Early voting began Tuesday. The Democratic nominee will face the winner of the Republican primary in November. That race includes incumbent Senator John Cornyn, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, and Houston Congressman Wesley Hunt. And joining us now to discuss is Houston public media reporter, one of our faves, Michael Adkison.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, good afternoon.
I kind of set that up with that goofiness of who's having a good week or not. Depending on how you look at this story, some people may have had a very good run with this one.
Well, we had a new development this morning in that James Talarico has said that he has raised $2.5 million in the 24 hours since this interview first aired.
Wow.
So, the Ernie had asked me this yesterday about, what does this mean for Talarico? And I said, this is just a great opportunity for Talarico to be on the national stage. The amount of time Stephen Colbert went on his broadcast and said the name James Talarico on a national broadcast that, to Stephen Colbert's point last night, probably nobody would have watched had this been on the air, but because it became this controversy in this story that a lot of people went online and watched this interview and now are aware of who James Talarico is, and obviously that has resulted in, according to his campaign, $2.5 million.
Well, what we can't have.
Yeah, and I do want to make a note. We have interviewed both Democratic candidates, James Talarico as well as Jasmine Crockett. You can go to hellohouston.org to find those interviews, and we as well have reached out to the Republican candidates.
So at the end of the day, the FCC fair doctrine rules might have been true that you can have James Talarico on, but you have to have Jasmine Crockett on. I mean, it gets very sticky.
Because
what are the rules, Michael?
Well, talk shows and news both have them.
Well,
oh yeah, we have them. We follow them.
There are obviously, we here at Houston Public Media follow the FCC, but there are historically exceptions made for talk shows. So that's how James Talarico is able to go on The View. That's how he was able to go on The Late Show. Purportedly, that's how he would have been. But that being said, the head of the FCC, Brendan Carr, has said that he wants to walk back on that exception. Now, that hasn't been codified. That is not the guidance from the FCC, but he has said, I would like to see the talk show exception be walked back. And so that is what kind of is assumed by a lot of media analysts factored into the decision. And that's what Stephen Colbert has said, that, this isn't the law of the land, but CBS is operating like it is. And that's what resulted in this result.
Like you said, it did well for him.
Exactly. That Colbert is obviously getting a lot of attention, and so is Talarico.
In addition to the monies raised, the Google search, there were more searches for James Talarico in the 24 hours, the most searches ever for his name in Texas alone in the last 24 hours, and nationwide, a phenomenal number of searches. So at a pivotal moment when you're going in early voting has already begun, the attention on a single candidate and making people say, well, who is this guy? Let's learn more. It couldn't hurt.
And it made him a news product, and that's why we're talking about him.
Yeah.
So we're saying the name James Talarico a few times also.
Right, and to make a point, we'll throw in the name Jasmine Crockett as well. That one of the questions has been, was this fair to her? And Colbert has said that Jasmine Crockett has been on his show a couple of times. We should say neither of which were during her Senate campaign. There were just prior appearances.
She was on The View, not
correct.
Too long
Yes,
ago.
and that being said. Some reporting, Reuters, I believe, is the one that broke this story, has said that the FCC is beginning an investigation into The View for having Talarico on and not giving equal opportunity to Jasmine Crockett.
But she was on.
So the question is, what does equal time mean? What does it mean to have one candidate with a whole platform? It is this question that kind of is unfamiliar territory for these, national syndicated groups.
And that's what I was going to ask, Michael, bringing it out a little bit. This is not the first time that people are looking at CBS under this new administration, I guess we can call it, with Barry Wise coming in. What do you think this says for that network specifically, and what do you think this says about the FCC's interaction with networks in general?
Right. So to take a step back, as you were saying, Celeste, and really look at the power brokers in this circumstance, you've got CBS, whose parent company is Paramount. You've probably heard about Paramount before. They are in the middle of a hostile takeover bid for Warner Brothers Discovery, which is currently in talks to be bought by Netflix. Paramount has made it abundantly clear that they would like to buy Warner Brothers. They would like like to be the ones to do that. But with such a merger as this, it's actually going to come down to the federal government to make a decision over whether or not this is a monopoly, whether you can go through with such a merger. And so there's been a lot of reporting indicating that Paramount is wanting to appeal to the Trump administration, who, again, is going to have the final say. And Trump has said that himself. President Trump has said, yes, we will be weighing in on whether or not such a deal can go through. So you do have what a lot of folks have been skepticizing of whether or not CBS is really trying to just appeal to the Trump administration when it's making decisions like this.
So from your reporting, from paying attention as closely as you have to this story, what do you think happened? Do you think it was an overabundance of caution at some level? Do you think there was some pressure put on? Do you think it holds water that you have to have equal time for candidates in the same party against each other at this level?
So I'll answer that in 2 points. The first is I think it would be good to read what CBS, their statement. So I'll read that in full and then I'll get to that question. Okay. So CBS, and this was read by Colbert on his show last night, CBS said that it provided the Late Show legal guidance that the broadcast could trigger the FCC's equal time rule for the two other candidates, including Representative Jasmine Crockett, and presented options for how the equal time for the other candidates could be fulfilled. The Late Show decided to present the interview through its YouTube channel with on-air promotion on the broadcast rather than potentially providing the equal time options. That was CBS's statement. So there's been a lot of questioning over what exactly went down. I will say State Representative Talarico has really said, you know, the FCC doesn't want me to do this interview. And we should make abundantly clear, the FCC, as far as we know, did not make this decision. CBS made this decision, not the FCC.
Right.
And I have asked the Talarico campaign about that, and they have not provided clarification on why they're taking that angle.
That is very important to mention, that it was CBS, not the FCC.
Right.
And I'll go a little deeper. Whether or not it was actually CBS who made the decision or if it was the producers of Colbert who made the decision.
Sure, and that's...
But the question is, was it pressure or was it edict?
Exactly, and obviously we're talking about this not in a vacuum. We are in a world where there is pressure from the FCC for Colbert, who has made no secret that he has left-leaning views, that they have to operate in a certain way. So we're not speaking in a vacuum here. That certainly is the circumstance. But that being said, it does sound like what the lawyers for CBS told Stephen Colbert was, you have options. You will not air Talarico on his own on-network airwaves. That's not happening. Your options are you can either air it alongside Jasmine Crockett, as well as another candidate who's polling at 2% at the moment, in a distant third, or you can do this online. You can do this on streaming. You can do this somewhere where it's not going on FCC airwaves. Those are your options. They obviously went with the latter.
They went with, it ended up being on their streaming, right?
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you have to ask, though, Michael, who made the decision to cancel Colbert?
That's been another,
and who made the decision to pull the 60 Minutes piece on the jails?
And I don't cover CBS specifically, but that has been it's one of those things to the point of it not being in a vacuum. There's all these chips that are coming into play.
Well, it's always been the conservative broadcast system. Trust me, I've worked for CBS before, and they've always been conservative. But that was what made them great journalists. I thought 60 Minutes is one of the premier investigative show. It sort of set the stage for everybody. Yeah. And now they seem to be really bending backwards for this administration.
I think that there's none of this is happening in a vacuum, as we're saying. That there has been this push from 60 Minutes to, get comment from the Trump administration, or as Sharon Alfonsi has said, that's a sort of kill switch that now the Trump administration has over 60 Minutes is this emphasis on getting all perspectives represented. But let's say, as happened with 60 Minutes, what if the Trump administration doesn't respond? Does that mean a kill switch on 60 Minutes?
Does anyone know, was the Talarico interview live when it was done? I mean, did they have a
audience?
Did anyone see it before it went on YouTube?
I will say I've been to a Stephen Colbert taping a long time ago when I was in New York, and the way that they do it is, they bring all the audience in, and then they kind of just film, and they don't film it in order. They don't film it. They obviously they lay it out in a way on network TV.
What time? Were you there at 5?
It would have been in the afternoon when I did it. Again, this was years ago, but you have to. There were certainly audience members, and even in Monday night's broadcast, Colbert filmed this saying, he filmed this whole segment saying that we aren't allowed to show Talarico on air, so go on YouTube and watch it. Mm-hmm. So in real time, there was an audience who saw him say that and then knew that this was coming. I'm
trying to determine if someone saw the interview and said, he can't be on tonight. Or
Well, that's-
did they hear
It
he was
doesn't.
coming
It doesn't
out?
sound like
That's
that.
what I
That
was
when
gonna
he
ask
it's real quick that he did. In the interview with Talarico, it wasn't an after the fact. He sitting down with Talarico. Talarico comes in and Stephen Colbert says, "So if people are watching this, they're watching on YouTube." Like it was not
they
it was not an
acknowledge they're
after the
already
fact
not
decision. It was a preemptive
So
decision.
then, I guess then the question becomes, and this might be a little inside baseball within the industry, but what the actual editorial process is, essentially how they structure their workflow and where it got cut. At what level did it get cut? You know, somebody said we should have Talarico on. Let's have Talarico on.
Somebody
Then
booked him a couple of weeks
they
ago.
evaluated it. Talarico had to get to New York. There was a whole process to get him in the studio.
Right.
And so the question then becomes, where in the process did that go?
Yeah.
It's not
When did
happening.
word
That
come
really was
out?
my
This is
question.
not going to make it to air.
Sure.
You know.
I will say, my job has been watching The Late Show for the last couple of days. So I was watching The Late Show, and during last night's broadcast, Stephen Colbert made note that, bear with me, during Monday's taping, he is having real-time conversations with attorneys on the wording of what they're going to say. That even he will do one segment and then he will go backstage and the lawyers say, "Hey, we have new wording on what you should say about this to make sure that we're completely in the clear." And so he has emphasized that every word that he has said on air has been exclusively tailored by CBS and Paramount's lawyers.
Where are we?
Well,
as
we
a
also
country?
know that Tony DeCoppel, is that how you say his last
I believe
name?
DeCoppel.
DeCoppel. When he interviewed President Trump, we also know that there was audio that was taken where Caroline Leavitt is telling him, "We will sue you if that's edited." And that's not necessarily the normal protocol between a presidential administration and journalists.
Hardly.
Sure. And, that's a direct result, I believe, to what happened after the 2024 60 Minutes piece, where 60 Minutes obviously has a precedent for every major presidential election interviewing both of the candidates. And they have with President Trump in the past. They did it in 2016, they did it in 2020. And in 2024, he opted not to do an interview. So the whole piece was Vice President Kamala Harris. That was essentially the whole piece. And, they made a note of saying that we extended this invite to Donald Trump and he did not agree. But then Donald Trump obviously sued CBS and Paramount for that piece and resulted in a major settlement. And then days later is when we find out that Stephen Colbert is being let go from The Late Show.
Yeah. I'm not a lawyer, but I do wonder this. If after March 3rd, let's just say Talarico won, and the Republicans were in a runoff for May, could you interview James Talarico all you wanted and not have to interview the Republicans because they don't have a candidate yet?
That's a good question. I think so. I'm
There
not
is-
sure when the equal time
Right,
starts.
there's
How many months out before the
time
Right.
limit
Yeah.
between an election and when you have to.
Yes, but if there's no
follow it.
candidate from the
Sean
Republicans,
Radigan on YouTube did say, "Can you imagine Ken Paxton on The Late Show?"
I know, right?
Yeah. Well, the other thing
Something
too,
I'd
I
watch.
want to bring it back to this particular story in that I guess Crockett is saying now, implying, I guess is a better way to put it, that both Talarico and Colbert are lying about this and that they are not being truthful in the way they're telling the story.
And I think that goes back to the idea that State Representative Talarico has said the Trump administration doesn't want this interview out there. The FCC does not want this interview out there. And as we've said, the decision, as we understand it, came down to CBS and Paramount, not the FCC. That the FCC obviously has what they've suggested in their guidance, but that the decision to not air Talarico came down from CBS. So Congresswoman Crockett, in her first comments on the matter, when I watched that, and we put this in our reporting, that she's held back from directly criticizing what happened. But she does say, as I understand it, this was not an FCC decision. This was a Stephen Colbert decision and the Late Show decision. And she even makes a point that she drew attention to, I will say, that they had the option of bringing her on the show for the equal time, and somebody chose not to. And that's kind of how she puts it, that somebody obviously chose not to, and they chose to just put it on YouTube.
Do we know, is there anything that has come out to say why they didn't just offer an invite to her as well?
No, and that's something that I think
Which would have
Congresswoman
fixed
Crockett
this whole problem.
and has been a big question is what that why that didn't happen, what led to the decision not to just have Congresswoman Crockett on the show. Colbert has said that she has been on the show a couple of times, that she's been on the show before, that hypothetically I think the extension of that argument is that his viewers know who Jasmine Crockett is. They may not know who James Talarico is.
Well, they've gotten almost 6 million YouTube views.
Right.
That's a lot more than they would have seen on The Late Show. That's
Exactly.
for sure. Okay.
What do you think can actually come out of this?
That's a
Michael?
good question. I think, as we've said, the attention that it brings Talarico, who, before, when was the campaign announcement? September of last year. Before September of last year, James Talarico was not a name that was really on anyone's radar outside of Texas politics, and now he's become something of a national figure.
Houston public media reporter Michael Adkison, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank y'all.
You can find more of his reporting at houstonpublicmedia.org. Coming up on Hello Houston, we have another edition of Frank Billingsley.
I don't know how to pronounce it either.
Friends of Frank, series, as he talks to broadcaster Brent Goff. This is News 88.7. I was like, why can I say that word?
That's okay.
Ramadan.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
AI is supposed to make our jobs easier, meaning that we should be able to do more faster, right?
We're not going to know for some time what the productivity impacts of AI are, in part because it's going to be really hard to measure.
I'm Amy Scott. AI and productivity, next time on Marketplace.
You can listen to Marketplace tonight. That's on at 6:30.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe. R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul. Music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro. Introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
All right, today on Friends of Frank, I talked to a fellow news colleague who I've known for 30 years. Brent Goff is the chief news anchor for the English-speaking news outlet DW, once known as Deutsche Welle Television. Brent broadcasts from Berlin, Germany, and I wanted his take on how Europeans are seeing Americans these days, as well as a number of other questions. So I asked Brent what it feels like to live in Europe and next to war-torn countries. Take a listen.
Well, I tell you, when the war started in 2022, we had a flood of refugees, mainly Ukrainian women and children, because the men were not allowed to leave the country. And my best friend here, he actually took one in. That didn't work out too well. I mean, he actually had to ask her to leave. But I mean, you had that generosity, that welcome sentiment was there, but it was short-lived because so many of them came. And they were given welfare. And I think they're now the largest single group of recipient. I think that's right. After Syrians who came over in 2015. Anyway, it's expensive to have them here. And they all came to Germany because Germany is the richest country and it's so close. There's that aspect. So you have a lot of people who would be glad to see the war over and glad to see the Ukrainians, go home because it's expensive. There's that part. The other part is the fear that Europe is going to be pulled into this war. And, we've seen advisors to Putin say that if any troops are put in Ukraine, the first thing that Russia will do is attack Berlin and London. Those are the two cities. So you're right. I mean, we're very close. I mean, and Putin's advisors have said we will use tactical nuclear weapons on Germany and the UK. So as I'm sitting here in the middle of Berlin, if that were to happen, and they wanted to go for Berlin, I mean, this could be, like that movie The Day After, right here. But let's hope that doesn't happen. But it could happen.
I'm speaking with Brent Goff, who is the chief news anchor at DW Television out of Europe. He's in Berlin. So that in itself has to be a little frightening. And I want people to know that you aren't just, and I say just, a TV anchor, like a lot of our TV anchors. Half your job is moderator of some of the biggest conventions and meetings that happen in Europe. People don't realize that there's got to be somebody to MC those and keep them in order and perhaps even ask questions. And you're that guy. I know you do that all over Europe. So what did you think about what Trump said in Davos when he was meeting there and keeping Gavin Newsom from speaking?
Yeah, Gavin Newsom arrived. And remember, I don't know if you saw the interview with him where he said, I should have brought my knee pads to give to the European leaders because, they're on their knees doing things to Trump. They're just, worshiping him. That didn't sit well, obviously.
Yeah.
And it had some truth to it, but Trump is very good at finding something that is true, and he likes to rub it in. And there are some things that are true. He talks about mass migration in Europe, and I look at the situation, and I think Europe has a serious problem. It's worse than the United States with the border with Mexico. It's much worse, and it's almost gotten out of control. And what you've got now is this wave of you've got politicians, you've got far-right parties all over that are successful now because of that. And you've got the situation, and Trump was right to point this out, that you can't even really talk about the situation without people labeling you racist, xenophobic. And I mean, I see this, I hear this all the time. I hear this every day. People want the borders secured. They don't want people coming in illegally. And Trump, he really just, hit on that, and he wins support with that, and then he goes and does things like with the Epstein files, where all the goodwill that maybe that capital he's built is just blown away, and it's back and forth. And when he was in Davos, he won some capital, but sure enough, with Epstein or with a tweet or you name it. Or with what happened in Minneapolis, the goodwill is quickly gone.
Well, as you know, speaking of which, our immigration solution has been to close the borders with a wall and put ICE agents in especially sanctuary cities to remove those people. Are there any steps in Europe, like you said, they don't like illegal people coming in, but are there any steps to get rid of those people or politely ask them to leave?
No, I mean, the far-right party here in Germany, the AfD, they have promised that if they ever do come to power, if they're ever in the government, that they want a German version of ICE. It's ridiculous, the number of deportations that take place here when you consider how many people should be deported and how many people actually are. I mean, it's minute. And some of the reasons were that the police would call the people and say, tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, you're going to be picked up by immigration agents. And they'd get there at 6 o'clock and there was nobody there. I mean, that happens a lot. That happens a lot. I mean, I know we think that doesn't make sense. It's not common sense, but the law demands that they do that. People have rights. But that is being changed. But the numbers are still minute.
Let me ask about the economy. Ours is, by all counts, I mean, the Dow Jones has been above 50,000. We're doing pretty well if you have a 401k or you're invested in the market. Day-to-day affordability for some groceries and rents especially, and some airfares have gotten rather high. How is the economy? I guess you know it best in Germany, but generally around Europe, since you're all in the euro.
I mean, inflation has been bad here as well. It's gone down a little bit, but still, you feel it when you get to the grocery store. I mean, I know with my family in North Carolina, they talk about going to the grocery store and how expensive things have become, or staples have become. And it's similar here, not as extreme. And the dynamism that you still have in the United States that you don't have right now. I mean, economic growth here is anemic. It's very, very tiny. Germany's been actually in a recession. So it's been negligible. That the number of layoffs, I have to say, here has not been like it's been in the United States. And maybe it's just a matter of time before that does come over here. But the layoffs in the U.S., that's the thing that scares people the most when they see what's happening in terms of layoffs and people losing their jobs. Because here, if you are our age and you lose your job in a layoff, the chances of you finding a job that it's comparable in pay or in skills, I would venture to say, and I'm saying this on the record, the chances of finding a job are smaller here than they would be in the United States. And you and I both know in the United States, that's really not, the chances aren't that good for people who are over 40, 50. Here, it's even worse. So people don't want to lose their jobs. And here, the job security is so much better because of just labor laws and things, you get your vacation, your health insurance is not tied to you having an employer, things like that. So people are not as mobile. They don't move as much as they do in the States. So people are afraid. People are afraid of, I guess, the stability that they've got of losing it. More so, I think, than in the United States. And I know in the States that the risk and the fear is high. But when you've been taken care of by a social welfare system here, the way things are, and you fear that you're going to lose that, I think the existential angst is even bigger here, definitely.
So, as a tourist, how are Americans greeted in Europe these days? I guess I should ask some Americans that have been there, but you probably have seen the ins and outs of it. I
haven't heard any bad stories, but how many Americans are there coming over? The numbers have gone down dramatically. And the numbers of Europeans going to the U.S., that I think it is an unprecedented drop in the last 2 years. Yeah. Every time I fly to North Carolina, I fly nonstop from Frankfurt to Raleigh-Durham. I'm shocked at how many empty seats there are. And there was a time when that was just unheard of, or even from here to Newark. And that's because no one from Europe is flying to the States. Americans still probably have the money, and those who do have the money, they will come over in the summer. But the numbers, the way they were pre-pandemic, no way. It's just, you can tell the difference. I have a good friend of mine who's also a tour guide here in Berlin, and the numbers, the business, it's just an anemic city right now. You've had tons of independent tour guides, people go out of business, either go on welfare or they've left the country or they've had to find another job, because the Americans are the ones who would come over, they would pay well, they'd also tip you well, and all that's gone. It's the American influx is turned into a little trickle.
Brent Goff is chief news anchor for DW Television. Brent, put you on the spot. What's the future going to hold?
The future for what? For all of us?
Well, I know you travel all around Europe and you hear from a lot of politicians. I would say you're one of the best connected people I know. Is the general a wait and see, let's kick as many cans down the road as we can until things change? Or do we have to really make a plan because things aren't going back?
I think the worst case scenario is that by the year 2030, there will be a breakdown in so many things economically because of AI that mass unemployment is going to change everything. We're talking about it's going to be so bad that you're going to have people rioting. That could happen, and that could happen as soon as 2030. There's that worry. The other worry is that after the election in the U.S. of 2028, maybe things will return to some. Maybe the Trump factor will be taken out, but I don't believe that. I think that when Trump's gone, I think MAGA and the whole movement will continue, and maybe it may even be more virulent than it is now. What I'm saying is, I think the rest of this decade is going to be extremely difficult for us all. And I think that our wealth is going to be diminished. I don't think we're going to see the divide get bigger. But I do believe that after 2030, if we use AI to its advantage and the things that it can do well, that things will get better. That's what I believe. That's what I tell my nieces and nephews too, right? I mean, you can't deny them their hope for the future. But I think things are going to get rougher before they get smoother.
You know, I've been trying to push my own logo around here, Make America, America Again. But I'm kind of losing hope out there.
You know, it's crazy. It's crazy, Frank, because the thing that, like, the America that we grew up in, I mean, I grew up in the 80s. And this sense that despite the mistakes we made of always being on the right side of history and always trying to do the right thing at the end of the day, I wish we could reclaim that, because the world needs the United States to be that way. And when the world perceives the United States as not being that moral leader, what does it have to turn to? China? You know, China is now more popular in some European countries than the United States.
That's unheard
and
of.
That's not I mean, I just don't think that's an alternative, you know? But we will see. I mean, hold on for the next 4 years, you know? I mean,
and we'll see.
If you've got a good retirement, make sure you preserve it and protect it.
Yeah. Brent Goff, a true friend of Frank for more decades than we can even count sometimes. Brent is the chief news anchor for DW Television, and people can see it on PBS, correct? And probably online.
They can see it, or they can also watch it on YouTube. You know, we're live streamed on YouTube, and they can, you know, all they have to do, if they put my name in or Brent Goff Today, all the links will come up. But we're everywhere.
And I know.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I know you're 7 hours ahead of us, so I appreciate you taking time out of your evening to share your thoughts and insights.
Well, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
I mean, you've got wisdom. I'd like to glean some from your experience. What's it like not being on the air every evening? You know, the daily grind. Do you miss it?
You know, I don't miss the schedule with nighttime television because Kevin and I missed out on a lot of things that happened in the evening because I was either working or people figured I was working and didn't invite us. So so I'm glad to have the schedule I have now, which is mornings into afternoons. And for instance, the weekend of Valentine's Day, February the 14th, had a big cold front move through. One of those Texas cold fronts that moved through, and I wasn't on the air, but my replacement was.
But I mean, do people when they see you though in Houston, I mean, they still ask you about the weather, right?
Well, they do. Yeah. You know, it's like it's like Ava Perón. You know, I have that trouble too. I once was an admiral, and they still call me. Thank you, Brent Goff, DW Chief News Anchor there out of Berlin, joining us on Friends of Frank. It's great to see you.
You too, Frank. Thank you.
Well, that was my conversation with Brent Goff. You can listen to our talk again on our YouTube page. Coming up, we talk about the art of playwriting. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
I'm Jesse Thorne. You want some real, insightful conversations about where art comes from? Well, Bullseye has you covered, as long as you don't mind a little bit of ridiculousness.
Y'all was like really judging me though.
They sniffed it out. They sniffed out that I was weird.
I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna sit, just like in the movies.
Listen, learn, laugh. Bullseye from Maximum Fun and NPR.
Bullseye, Thursdays at 10 p.m. on News 88.7.
What I've always tried to do in my music is just tell the truth.
Who am I really?
Get into the minds of some of the world's most creative people.
Totally exploring their ideas.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you everything.
The Arts Hour brings you the finest arts and culture conversation from across the BBC and beyond.
It's the variety. That's the world that interests me.
The Arts Hour from the BBC.
Fridays at 10 p.m. and Saturdays at 11 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from the Clarion at Brazosport College, featuring the vocal ensemble Kitka on February 27th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets and more information at brazosport.edu/Clarion.
Support comes from the Dan L. Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Center at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, offering comprehensive cancer care that is compassionate, personalized, and driven by clinical research. More at stlukeshealth.org/cancer.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
James Anthony Tyler is an accomplished playwright known for his acclaimed play, The Drop-Off, and his work on television series, including the OWN series, Cherish the Day, and the new Apple TV series, The Savant. Here at the University of Houston campus, James also serves as the head of the university's Playwright and Dramaturgy Program, which provides students with the opportunity to refine their storytelling skills through receiving hands-on experience and mentorship from acclaimed faculty. To tell us more about his work and the UH Playwright and Dramaturgy Program, we welcome James Anthony Tyler. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Dramaturgy.
I was going to ask about that.
What the heck is that word?
Let's talk about. I see it all the time. And I hear people refer to it, and I'm always like, I don't think I know what it means.
Yeah. You know what? Dramaturgs, they assist playwrights with just getting more details, and it's a lot of research about the worlds that playwrights are trying to create. So, the last time I worked with a dramaturg, I worked with one on my play Hops the A. And the dramaturg had all of this interesting information about the subway lines. The play takes place on the A train in New York City. And so the dramaturg did all of this research about like the history of the subway lines in New York City and the A train. And then some of that information that you get may make its way into the play just to make the world more specific.
I've always heard that term in relationship to actors as opposed to playwrights.
Yeah. No,
and they do work with actors too, right?
They could work with actors, but I feel like now in the modern era of theater, they have been working more closely with playwrights to just make the worlds of the plays more specific.
I'm curious, when you write a play, do you start with the whole structure of the play and all of the details and then fill it in with dialogue, or do you start with the dialogue and fill it in with the structure and all of the...
You know what? With plays, this is I tell my students all the time, I know this might sound so frustrating, but every play is different. So some of my plays I needed the structure and to know a clear beginning, middle, and end and where things are going to go. And then some of them, I just heard a line of interesting dialogue in the street. And I was like, that belongs in a play. And I started a play with no idea where it was going. And then it ended up being a fully fleshed out thing.
Interesting.
So trust the process.
I'm interested in actually understanding the process. Essentially, when you think of a playwright, could it be equated to a composer?
Definitely. That's another thing I like to talk about with my students. There is something about like the magic of the music of the play. Yeah. And so the dialogue, I mean, I'm sure you all have seen an August Wilson play. The dialogue just lulls you into the piece. And so, there's definitely parallels. And I also feel like with a piece of composition, there is a clear beginning, middle, end. There's a build to the music. There's
crescendo.
Yes. And same things with plays.
You bring up a point that I've been noticing of late in shows, plays, even in screenplays, that really I think is an interesting element of it is the fact that if you can write a character that almost instantly the audience understands them without being stereotypic of what they are. And that would be, I think, the biggest challenge, because you only have a set amount of time to bring your audience in, and they've got to know the world you've created relatively quickly.
Page one.
Right. How do you balance that out without making it, so obvious, so stereotypic, that's that guy who does this job?
I always encourage my students, and I do it myself. I am always interrogating who the character is, the why, just knowing all of these details about the life of the character. For myself, the last couple of years, I have been answering like 28 questions, and some of them are like, who are the siblings of this character? Where were they born? Like, and being as specific as possible. And that work will make its way onto the page. And then one of my tricks for my own work is I love to get the audience laughing on page one. If you get them laughing, I mean, the drop-off is a tough story to get through. I just came back from Flint, Michigan, working on the drop-off. And it's essentially a daughter dropping off her elderly mother to an assisted living facility because she can no longer care for her on her own. I know it's such a downer. I had to get people laughing in the beginning, and there's so much. I mean, people were going, I can't believe how funny this is, because I know what's to come. And if we can just disarm the audience and really make them care about the lives of both of these characters.
That's brilliant.
But isn't it true that you only have seconds, though, when somebody essentially is judging if they like you or not?
Yes. You only have seconds. So, like, I was like, how do I start this play? And so, the daughter's coming in with a box, and she's going, come on, Ma. And Mom's going, huh? The door closes. It's closed. So, like, we get them laughing and caring about them. This lady just is cracking jokes all over the place. Mama, even though, daughter, although Mama is, not who she used to be, the daughter still jokes with her. So you see what their lives were like before the mother fell into
And Ernie and I always talk about this. It's like sometimes there are people that you just automatically know.
Yes.
Yeah, our joke is, I don't know you, but I know you.
Exactly.
There's something about their presence, and you're like,
I know,
Yep.
I have a quick question. James Anthony Tyler, we are talking to here. So some playwrights, I've done a little theater in my life. Man, they want you to say every single word they have written and don't even think about changing it. Other playwrights are like, that line worked a little better the way he screwed it up.
Yes.
So what flexibility do you give playwrights, and do you give yourself?
It's a living, breathing art. So actually, when we went to work on the drop-off in Flint, Michigan, I literally just arrived back on Monday. The play had a production this past fall, its first production in New Jersey Repertory Company, shout out to them. And I learned so much and did so much rewriting in that process that I thought, oh man, nothing's going to change here. But actors do say certain things where you're going, oh, wait a minute, that line is so much better than what I had written. So let's use that line. And then there's sometimes where actors will ask, oh, can I say this? And you go, that's not a good. Yeah. Let's stick to script.
I want to go back to you talking about the humor in it. And I remember many, many years ago talking with Terry Jones from Monty Python. And he said, and the reason I say the name, because they're masters at comedy and they know what's funny. And his comment to me was, you never know if something is funny until someone laughs at it. You can write it, you can rework it and all that, and you never know. For you, what is the symbol of when you're writing it? How do you know it's going to connect?
I laugh.
If
I'm sitting there at a desk like a lunatic, laughing myself, and if I also have cried when I've written certain things. So I'm the barometer. But then the test is once it's really in front of an audience, I sit in the back.
I can remember getting a heck of a laugh on a line on Monday, and then it flopped on Tuesday, and it was delivered the same way, the same time of the play. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, everybody was laughing at this last night. Does that happen to you?
Oh, yeah. And sometimes so I did a play at Williamstown in 2018, and there was just this line that I love, and it made me laugh all the time. And I believe the director was laughing in the room also. It went over the heads of the audience. It just went over their heads. So,
do you have a favorite? everybody, you look at a Tennessee Williams and it's Tennessee Williams.
Yeah.
There's some fabulous playwrights out there. But do you have a particular favorite? You mentioned August Wilson.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Of course. I have a bunch of favorites. Lately, though, I've really been diving into the work of Alice Childress, who has just like been discovered by New York theater, or have rediscovered by New York theaters. Her play Trouble in Mind was on Broadway a couple of years, and I think it's a brilliant piece of work.
Nice.
Yeah.
I want to take you back into the classroom. And one side note here, but I think a lot of people get overwhelmed by the idea of writing something because we so often hear, and there's programs you can buy and mentorship, that you have to have the right format to lay out your idea. I tend to think if you've got a great idea and you want to write out however you, there'll always be someone who can put it in the right format for you. Don't let that be a barrier to creating what you want to write.
I agree. That's it. That's simple.
Yeah.
Don't let that be a barrier. Like you can be taught formatting, but like you tell your story. It's so important, the truthfulness of your story. And I'm always like stressing to my students, like there's this like fake idea of like what a play should be, but a play should sound like your grandparents sound, or your mother or father or community.
Do playwriting or scripting always translate into screenwriting?
Not always.
Or
but
does it even?
It can, but screenwriting is just a more visual medium. So if you can, tell your story in a way that's more visual, then it's going to be great for the screen.
It seems like a lot of Broadway shows are now being written for a 90-minute no intermission production, which personally I like.
I love it.
Are you finding
I want Angels in America. Like 12 hours. I want to move into the theater. Nicholas Nickleby, here I come.
Yes, Thursday and Friday night. So, are you getting demands from producers for that kind of theater? We got to go. Just yes or no?
Yeah. No, I'm not getting demands, but I also think the reality is that our attention spans are shorter. All of us, we have shorter attention spans.
That's why we go 2 hours instead of 4.
Okay.
There you go. And we're out of time.
James Anthony Tyler is a playwright and head of the Playwriting and Dramaturgy Program at the University of Houston. James, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me.
And we've run out of time.
That was quick.
That brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversations. Get your weekly current obsessions ready because we'll be taking those and send them in. This is News 88.7. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altine, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8 at 7, nature and Sir